Allegations of poor workplace treatment and manipulation start to run rampant in the discussion of the two studios. Undeniable proof of these people talking about him behind his back about their opinions on his lack of skill, and how he won't make it anywhere if he doesn't join the company.
The CEO is manipulative and verbally abusive, often belittling others instead of providing constructive feedback. Female staff are verbally harassed. Employees are often pressured into working overtime as well as weekends. Mob Entertainment made Poppy Playtime, a game that's objectively very violent, and then turned around and made a series of spin-offs targeted towards young children whose parents would then buy them backpacks.
First, they released the first 3 episodes of the series. Then they released 2 compilations of shorts they made based on the series. After that, they released the 4th full episode, along with all the other episodes in a compilation. Then after that, they just started releasing compilations of shorts.
Don't Come Crying, originally written and sung by Tryhard Ninja, is a song about Circus Baby. There's nothing wrong with that, and clearly none of the blame could be put on Tryhard for how Sam and Emoth decided to adapt his song. But the thing is, she's portrayed as excessively sassy in the animation, emphasis on the air quotes there. For this music video, they also decided to update her model to include noticeable breasts. This would make sense if the same treatment was given to other female robots in the animation like Laura, but it's not. This inconsistency leads me to believe that the Circus Baby model was given breasts purely for the sake of sexualization, especially because of how she's animated and portrayed in general. I mean, there's literally a butt shot in the scene of her bathing, despite the fact that her mental age is probably around like 10 at most.
The people behind Zaminations and Enchanted Mob are shitty people. All I have to do is show you this image from 2015 and this image from right now, and my point has been made.
You know, these days I find it harder and harder to believe that people can change for the better. In a world where people are proud to define themselves as hateful, uneducated, and backward, seeing anyone that would define themselves as that and then one day turn around and seemingly grow a conscience is not only unbelievable, but entirely unrealistic. So, when a corporation does it, well, I don't believe it at all. Zaminations has been in the news cycle lately for seemingly turning over a new leaf, drawing a line in the sand with their own content and declaring that they're no longer going to be putting out self-admitted slop content. Like this, for example.
Any of you boys order some KFC?
Or this.
Hot dang, you got moves, Bonnie! Woo!
Or this.
If you want a chance at picking up a guy, you're gonna need some professional training. Ooh, okay. I honestly don't even know why I try.
Yeah, I'm not gonna touch that with a 10-foot pole. Although, in all fairness, I actually had a little trouble finding those clips, if I'm being completely honest. In their apparent dedication to rebrand, they've either privatized or deleted a large chunk of their worst content. Both there and my biggest example of this being their Fazbear and Friends series. It was a series that ran for way too many episodes and surmounted to 20-minute long compilations of their existing FNAF animations, with maybe 1 or 2 new ones thrown in and re-released semi-frequently to farm fresh engagement. Just to make sure we're all on the same page, this is specifically what they had to say on the matter. Their own words, if you will, on the rejection of the slop.
Hey there, everyone. Yep, you heard that right. Fazbear and Friends is back. We'll be producing 2 12-minute episodes and 7 4-minute episodes through the end of 2025, wrapping up what will be Season 2 of FAF. Episodes will release about once a month. We know that Fazbear and Friends has a mixed history, with many fans growing tired of the weekly churn of random shorts over time. But now that Zamination is an independent studio, we're bringing FAF back with a vengeance. No skimping on quality, longer episodes, a connected season story, and less frequent releases. More or less, Fazbear Fright's done right. And, as the trailer mentioned, all funds and support for FAF are going directly into helping fund our upcoming original animated shows. These projects take time, and a pretty penny to make, and we're hoping FAF can help get us there while also training up our crew's show-making skills in the process. Thank you all so much for your support, and we'll see you March 22nd for our biggest episode yet, The Zam Crew.
Now, this statement didn't come out of nowhere. A little bit before this was released, it was actually announced that Gooseworks and Glitch Productions, the creators of Murder Drones and The Amazing Digital Circus, were entering a partnership with Zamination. Under this deal, this partnership, Zamination would take over as the creative director for all of Glitch's future marketing campaigns. That announcement was actually made on my birthday, funnily enough, but in the 5 days between these two announcements coming out, the wider internet wasn't exactly quiet about their skepticism of this decision. This being because people, myself included, had no idea that this wasn't the first announcement they'd made. This was actually the second. The first being very interesting in regards to what we're talking about. In an announcement post made here a whole 4 months ago, they say,
Hey everyone, we're absolutely blown away by all of the support for our upcoming Lethal Company music video. We can't wait to share it with you. Given the attention it's received, we'd like to share our future plans for Zamination, as well as clear up a few misconceptions. Firstly, we've noticed some confusion about Zamination's relationship with Mob Entertainment. As of 11 months ago, Zamination is no longer affiliated with Mob Entertainment, and is now independently owned and operated by Zachary, Michael Preciado, and Andy Gill. With this change comes a fresh vision and exciting new plans for the studio's future. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. We will not be creating any more rushed or content-farming videos to make a quick buck. Everything we produce will be crafted with quality and integrity at the forefront. We really want to earn your respect and trust, and we hope that in the coming months, our team's efforts will speak for themselves. On that note, you may have noticed that this new Lethal Company video isn't in our usual blocky style. We wanted to branch out and try something new, and we're so happy that everyone likes the result, since these highly stylized videos are very costly. They won't immediately replace our classic blocky style, however, we'll continue experimenting with styles like this in our future projects as we grow. And, speaking of future projects, we're taking Zamination in exciting new directions. Our primary goal is to create high-quality original content and join in the mission to make indie animation more accessible to everyone. Although the transition to fully original content won't happen overnight, we're actively working towards that goal and are excited and very thankful to have you along for the journey. Thank you all once again for your wonderful support, and stick around. You won't want to miss what we have in store. The Zamination crew.
Now, I don't just want to come right out of the gates claiming that this is an obvious attempt by them to indirectly shift all of the blame for their actions onto Mob Entertainment, but that's really what this feels like. Not to say that Mob are innocent here, I certainly don't want you to misconstrue what I'm saying to mean that. However, to claim indirectly as they have that the sole reason that they were producing content farm style videos was because of Mob seems utterly insincere. You have to remember, they willingly partnered with Mob despite all of the controversy surrounding Mob games and Poppy Playtime at the time, and that still surrounds them now due to the fact that they've never once seemed genuinely remorseful or regretful of any of the decisions they've made. Zam stood by Mob as Mob ruthlessly bullied Ecracoaster, and let me be clear, bullied is putting things very mildly. They stood by Mob as they tried to monetize the game's story by pulling it out of the game and selling the story as NFTs, before they'd even actually finished telling the story. They stood by Mob through the controversy revolving around their over-sexualization of Circus Baby in their music videos and shorts, something one could argue they still do now. There's obviously a nuanced conversation you can have about the topic, but most sane people can agree that the end point of that nuance is a pretty definite you just shouldn't do it. Every single time Mob fell into hot water for degenerate business practices and behavior, they stood by them. And say it with me, folks, it's my favorite catchphrase by now. An action against behavior like this is endorsement. And it's clear as day that all of these things were completely acceptable to the people behind Zam, since none of them were breaking points. For all we know, they might still be acceptable to the people behind Zam, because it is very obvious that the only reason they've split with them now is because their partnership with Mob was damaging to their brand directly. They always had the flimsy defense before that Mob's actions were not representative of their own beliefs, despite the fact that they never condemned Mob for their actions, again meaning that at the best they were okay with them. But look, I know some people are going to try and argue that because all of these controversies happened after they chose to partner together, that Zam can't be held responsible. And so to that I say, how about holding them responsible to the fact that they chose to partner with the game studio that produced Poppy Playtime? End of. Poppy Playtime, a lot of people forget, was and is a soulless cash grab of an IP that got big because it was specifically marketed as a mascot horror kids game at a time when they were all the rage. The game was intentionally made to be as bland, palatable, and formulaic as possible, specifically to sell merchandise, which they released almost as soon as the first chapter of the game came out. Zam saw that and decided that they wanted in, because they knew that through throwing away their soul and their creative integrity, they would blow up in size and make a ton of money. And I say all of this to make the point that the issues with Zamination did not start at their partnering with Mob, and to further explain that their channel sliding into being a content farm was the direct result of their malleable backbone in the face of a mountain of money. So their indirect claim that Mob was the sole reason for their channel becoming what it did by taking zero responsibility in the post is disingenuous, and potentially telling to the fact that things might not change. But moving on from that though, I want to segue into a more positive look at things. Because while yes, I stand by everything I just said when I gave it my best shot at tearing them a new asshole, believe it or not, I do actually see this change as a good thing. I've seen a lot of people since this announcement saying that they've not really done anything different, or they're not going to do anything different with the content on their channel after these announcements, because it looks like they're still creating the usual brand of slop that they do, the brightly coloured, fast-paced crossover content that's aimed at children. And while I do agree that this content is in some ways predatory, I do want to make the distinction that the people who were calling it slop as an insult were doing so due to the declining quality of the videos, and not the content itself. The content itself is actually, conceptually, not all that bad.
240 million views! I was huge! I was looking for the sack! I was more than just a cheap gag! I was...
I just want to come on here and fully admit to my bias for a second. This little fucking thing, I don't know why, but every time he is on screen, I cannot help myself. I burst out laughing. I don't get it. I don't like Among Us. I don't think it's funny. I've never liked any of the Among Us jokes, but for some reason, whenever this little bastard is on screen, no matter what happens, the moment he opens his mouth, I can't I can't fucking stop myself from laughing. I hate him. I want to see him pop like a balloon.
Take their latest video, for example, their apology for producing such sloppy content in the past. It's good. It's really good. It's well animated, well written, entertaining, well paced. The humor comes from the fact that the jokes are actually funny and not just loud, and they're meta even, in a way that allows both younger and older people to enjoy it. It's still a brightly colored IP-filled mess that takes advantage of YouTube's filtering systems, but it's good. Honestly, if we were as a species still focused on TV instead of YouTube, I could easily see this being the type of content you might find on the CITV of the modern age. For children's content, especially in a world just dominated by sheer and utter sensory-destroying garbage, Zamination's animations are top-tier content. That is, when they're not actively trying to be a content farm. The ability to take all of these IPs, smush them together into the distilled essence of YouTube Kids, and produce something that isn't slop is a very hard-earned skill. It's why letting themselves slide into being a content farm was so damaging to them as a brand. They had managed to create lightning in a bottle on a knife's edge and were somehow careless enough to let it fall, pushing artistic integrity and the respect of their audience to the wayside because someone with deep pockets told them to. Now don't get me wrong, I still have my criticisms, as you've well heard by now. And as the company, I outright refuse the idea that this decision was driven by anything other than the knowledge that they could farm even more money out of people if they did redeem their image. But when it comes down to it, it is an objective good that their content, when they try, is good. In a world of modern-day AFMAOs and ethobots, it's good that children have something to consume that isn't morally bankrupt and brain-rotted. I hate them on principle, because they're a company. For all the good they may provide if they stick to their word, I'm of the belief that none of this content is good for children at all. And I'm not just speaking of Zam when I say that, by the way. I mean the current state of children's content as a whole on YouTube. I consider it all downright despicable. the overstimulation, the underregulation, the amount of propaganda misinformation, all of it needs a shake-up. Because in an effort to drive the most clicks out of the still developing brains of children, you're taking that little sponge of a brain and frying it of all of its receptors. The lack of empathy and social connection in the growing generation, their inability to focus, all of it is the fault of the state of children's content and the method of delivery by which it is handed to them. TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels. But to get back to my original point, while I might think that their intentions do not come from a genuine place, unless we can get rid of all of the brain-rotting content that pervades the platform all at once and ensure that it isn't going to come back, I'd get rid of Zamination last, provided they stick to their promise. So you might actually be wondering at this point what the point of this video is. You might be asking, you know, well, what's the point of this? If it isn't your typical drama coverage video, if it's not a hit piece and you're saying so much nice stuff about them, or it's not a piece that glazes them because you ripped them a new arsehole, I argue and position this video to be a bit of a reminder. We need to keep these people, Zamination, to their word. They have promised that they aren't going back to being a content farm. It's easy to say something, it's a lot harder to actually act on your words, so we need to remind them and hold them to the mark. Because if they're going to be making content aimed at children, if they go back on their promise, tell me, what differentiates them from any other form of highly produced garbage? Every time they slip up, every time it seems like they might decide to go back on their word, every time they try and put out a video so very clearly only designed to milk an audience of their hard-fought attention and time, we need to be there, breathing down their necks to remind them that this second chance is not something they should be taking lightly. But why care? Right? It's just one studio. One potentially morally bankrupt studio out of millions and thousands of independent content creators that produce mindless, sloppy garbage every single day. And it's one of the ones wanting to do good. We should be giving them space, leeway, allowing them to occasionally drop the ball. No! It is because they want to do good. It is because we want to see them succeed that we need to hold them to such a stiff standard. If they want respect after having already dropped the ball once, if they want a second chance, which, let's be clear, is what this glitch contract is offering, then they need to prove to me, to you, and to everyone else that they are serious about this. Their return video was a good start, but that video needs to be the worst of what they will now go on to produce. Because you can sit there, and you can think to yourself that it's really not that important. It's really not that deep. That this one content farm is not deserving of such scrutiny. That Rainbow Friends vs. Alphabet lore is not going to rot a child's mind inside and out and leave them a skibbity victim. But how else do you think we stop the onslaught of slop? Other than by making people understand that slop is slop. It's not just a word, it is the word used to describe low-quality, poorly produced filler content that is the fast food of entertainment. We have to start holding these brain-rotting slop peddlers accountable. And if Zamination is serious about wanting to be better, wanting to stop being a content farm, then they should welcome the scrutiny and understand that they are in a position to be a beacon that shines a light on such a terrible issue. Because, sure, you know, one content farm producing sissy long legs versus baby long legs is not a big deal. So try thousands, all making the same low-effort, dopamine receptor-frying content that YouTube then algorithmically pushes into the palms of these children's hands. Obviously, the chain of accountability doesn't end there, but for the purposes of my example, yes, actually, it does. In case you can't tell by now, by the way, I am just using this situation to spread awareness of a much bigger, much more pervasive and terrifying issue. But how else is anything going to get done if every single time something like this happens, people respond by saying that they deserve leeway? That they deserve their second chance implicitly because they said some nice words? It's give them leeway this one time until there's no one left to give leeway to, because everyone responsible has been allowed to get away with it. If by some miracle someone from Zamination does see this video, then I want to conclude on the point that I am not criticizing you because I don't like you. Your new stuff is genuinely really high quality and very entertaining. Obviously, I'm not the target audience, but even I can see that. I'm criticizing you because I am hoping against all hope that you genuinely want to do the right thing. I want everyone to understand that this issue is far bigger than you or me individually. The potential now sat in the palms of your hands is so great, so please don't ruin it with another purple girl versus shark attack. Rant over. But yes, to conclude everything we've gone over today, Zamination has decided to declare that they're no longer going to be a content farm. And they want us all to believe them. And that's what inspired me to make this whole goddamn video. So, hello, everyone. I usually introduce myself at the beginning of videos, but this one's formatted a little differently, so I haven't really had the chance. But, hi, I'm the Drifter. Nice to see you again. This video is a little different, obviously, than the type of video I usually make. I know typically I usually cover either subreddits or just general internet drama. And I know that this isn't exactly regular internet drama, which is kind of why I've formatted it a little differently. This is going to sound very, 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 very nerdy, but truthfully, one of my biggest fun things to do, one of my favorite hobbies, is I like to write speeches. And I kind of wanted to give it another shot. In case you haven't noticed, I did try this once before. Instead of being about a business contract, it was about the current political climate of the entire world. And I kept looking down at my monitor to read my script because I'm terrible at memorizing stuff. So as you might be able to tell, I could just take credit for this, but I'm not gonna. I super glued a phone holder to the top of my camera, and I've got an auto cue scrolling on my phone. That's how I've managed to get this one done. But yeah, if you did enjoy this video, let me know, because I'd love to do more content like this in the future. I love to yap, and specifically, I love to yap my speeches. My kilter was a little off. I felt like I was a little fast in this one, not gonna lie, just because, I mean, my auto cue's fucking... I'm still getting used to using them. But I really want to do something like this again in the future. So if you have enjoyed, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And, you know, because I don't just want to be talking into the void, if you've got something to say about the topic of today's video, leave a comment down below. Tell me what you think. Tell me if you think that tell me if you're part of that group that thinks that it's not a big deal. Tell me if you agree with me and say that, okay, we need to start holding people accountable. You know, I want to hear your opinions, because last thing I want is for this fucking place to turn into an echo chamber. I've had enough of that for a lifetime. But yeah, in case I don't see you, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and good night. I'll see you later, guys. Love you.